Hello, sir.
How you doing?
I'm well. And your name?
James Melvin Vanderburg.
When were you born?
Uh, February the 7th, 1947,
In Mooresville?
Mooresville.
What do you remember about growing up here? Have you always lived here?
Yes, all my life. Uh, I can remember, well, like they've been talking about the camp meeting, whatnot. Well, I remember my mother told me that when they first started here, they gathered around a big oak tree, had service. Then after that, the man Morrow gave them 4 acres of land. After that, they built the arbor, and they started having service under the arbor till they built a one-room church, and they stayed in that church till they couldn't use it anymore. And at the time that had the church, they had the school, Morris School, so they started having church in the schoolhouse. They'd have school through the week, and then on Sundays they'd have church. They had church in the schoolhouse till they built this. I think this was built in 1955, and they've been in here, I think, October. I believe it'll be 150 years they'll be celebrating. But they still have, well, the arbors have been rebuilt, but they still have service under the arbor. Like I said, they still try to have camp meeting. It's not as large as it used to be, but they still try to have something going here. I think this was one of the first black churches that had camp meeting in Iredell County.
Did you go to school at Morrow's?
At Morris, no, they had closed it one time for me. I lived right up the road, but I know when it was operating, my mother used to bring me and my sister. We would walk from home and walk out here, and she would talk to the teachers, which I think they were some kin. So she would, talk, and we'd play around. Time to go back home, and then we'd walk back home.
All right, let's stop for a second.
Uh, those the Cornelius girls was talking about where they used to live on the Tuberfield farm. Well, that's where I was born, over there on the same farm. They was on one side of the creek, and we was on the other side. And the man was Flake Tuberfield. He was the man that gave me my name. A white man naming a black boy. But we, at the time I was growing up, I didn't know no difference. I didn't know black from white. That was the word, wasn't used around me. And he would come down the road. Well, our house was right there beside the road, and he'd be out working. He'd come home for lunch. I'd hear him coming down the road on the tractor. I'd run out there to the road. He'd pull up, get off, pick me up, put me on the tractor, and go home with it. Sit in there and eat lunch with him, you know. I didn't, you know. I was way up there when I started hearing about black and white. You know, hey, I seen as much out around black, white as I was black. And really the black ones I was around was my relatives, uncles and aunts, cousins. If I didn't see them, then I was around somebody white. But after I got up to my age out of school, well, I got getting the feeling of them when I graduated in '65 and started working. And I remember this little restaurant right up the street. We get off work. I was working third shift, and we get off from work. We'd go up there and get us some coffee or something in the morning. But we couldn't go through the front door. All black people had to go in the back. But then at that time, there was a lot of places that I couldn't go in the front door. If you wanted to eat a hot dog or something, you had to go around to the back door. But we'd be in the back there talking and drinking coffee. We didn't care nothing about them white people. We had ourselves a good time. They was having themselves a good time. So really, I didn't pay it no attention. When I got through, I went on about my business.
You said you spent 30 years.
Yeah, a firefighter. I joined the fire department at an early age. I spent 30 years as a firefighter. Then I spent another 30 years I spent building houses. So I've been blessed. I've enjoyed it. Enjoyed working. Matter of fact, when I was growing up, there was a white family that lived right down the street there. The man of the house and my father, they used to work together, and they would take turns driving. One would drive to work one week, the other would drive the next week. And my mama would get me and my sister, and we would walk down there. We'd stay down there till my daddy and them, till they came home, especially the week my daddy was driving. We'd stay down there till he brought the man home, and then we'd get in the car and ride back home. And we did that for a long time. They had 4 boys. And so I was in the age with the 3 of the boys. My sister was the age of the youngest boy. So the youngest boy, he couldn't play with us because we were a little older. So he'd have to stay there and play with my sister. But as the years went by, you know, he walked up to me. Well, he was building houses, and we ran into each other one day, and we was there talking, and he said, Melvin, ain't you tired of working in the mill? I said, well, I hadn't really thought about it. He said, why don't you come on out here and learn how to build houses? I said, what? He said, yeah, come on. I said, you gonna give me a job? He said, yeah. I said, when can I start? He said, well, you go and work a week's notice, just in case you don't like it, you know. you might go back and they give you your job back. So I did. Gave him a week's notice, worked with him for 13 years. And during that time, I moved up to the top man. we was building houses from, from foundation all the way to the close key. Give them the key, and hey, all I had to do was move in. In the meantime, I was the finished man. They framed it. I go in and do all of the finished work, put up the doors, make sure the windows case out, and hey, I enjoyed it. I moved from there to another job, ended up doing the same thing. Now I'm sitting back getting fat.
Right in Mooresville?
Next door,
Okay.
yeah.
Do you remember any racial issues in the fire department, or was it good?
It was good. I tell you, back when I first joined, that was the time I'd rather be in the fire department than being in church. you know, sometimes you get a bunch of black people together, it's kind of hard to get them all working together. But at the fire department, everybody was just like that. I guess I think I was the second black firefighter in Adair County. But I would say one thing about Lake Norman Fire Department. Well, when I joined, it was mostly the older farmers. They're the ones that got the fire department going. Was the farmers. We had there was 2 houses back in the 60s that burned to the ground, and my father's house was one of them out of the 2. So the farmers got together and they decided, well, we need some kind of protection out here, because we was out in the country, and the Mooresville City Fire Department, they wouldn't come out in the rural to fight a fire. And that's how Lake Norman got started. And behind that, there's the reason I joined.
Where did you go to school? Where did you go to high school? Or
I started in Mooresville, Dunbar High School. I went there for 9 years, and they, somewhere along the line, they decided that the county couldn't go to the city schools. So the county had to go to Statesville, up at Unity. I think Miss Clark was talking about Unity High School. But that's where I graduated from. I get on the bus at 7 o'clock, get off the bus about 8:15, and right in class, out of class, and on the bus, and probably sleep coming home.
how do you feel? I know you said you didn't really pay much attention to the segregation issues. It was what it was. What recreational things do you feel like black folks did then when you were growing up, outside of what you've already mentioned?
Well, for the recreation, they, well, when I was coming up at that time, about the biggest thing that they had going in this area was baseball. Uh, you talking about nail ball, where they played ball at up there. We used to go up there on Saturday. Now had a good team. Now they'd play some baseball, and him and his wife had a stand there. They sold fish, chicken, sodas. But my daddy, he loved baseball. I don't know if he played baseball, but I have a feeling when he was young, he probably played baseball. Now, he'd go to a baseball game, and we would go, him and Mama would be out there eating fish, and me and my sister be wanting fish. We'd have to eat a hot dog. Hey, that was the biggest thing. I remember when the school was here, they had a ball diamond right down the street there. They had a ball diamond down there, and they used to play ball. But baseball, I think, was the biggest thing was going. And, well, if it was a baseball game going, it was always a black team playing a black team.
Do you remember a bus coming and taking folks once a month to the swimming pool, or do you remember that?
No, that was before my time. No, I was after I got up some age. Well, it was a big number was attending here at church in the summertime. You know, the Sunday school would sponsor a trip, maybe go to High Point or somewhere and spend a day. They had a swimming pool, you know, something for the children to do, I guess. Come back and make sure you go to Sunday school for a whole year, you get another trip.
What about hospitals? Do you remember the Black Hospital at all? Or?
No, I know that Mooresville Hospital, that's where I was born, but other than that, that's all I know. I was in there when I was born, and I never went back. I think I was about 22 years old. Mr. Vanderburg. Grab it. No, that ain't my phone. That ain't my phone. All right. When I was growing up, I noticed, you probably noticed when you was coming down, they have a red light right up the street here. When I was coming along, there wasn't no red lights. Matter of fact, wasn't no building on this road. You might have had maybe one or two little stores, gas stations, but that was it. And the red light up there, up the street there, all the way as far as I know, it was dirt road. But we used to travel Brawley School Road it used to go into Mecklenburg County. All right, from Mecklenburg County, you ran into Bates Ford Road. But when you get down there, the road, it, well, you Brawley School Road went to a stop sign in Mecklenburg. Then the road, you went left, you went to Charlotte, you went right, you went to Denver. But in between those roads, there was other roads. The other road you could take and go to Davidson. There was a road you could take and go to Cornelius. I mean, it was a bunch of little roads on this road back in the day up to, and you could about go wherever you wanted to go. So the lake came up, and that just cut everything off. They, it was right on the neck down there was still Mecklenburg County. And if it was a house fire or somebody got hurt, and somebody from Mecklenburg County had to come all the way up 77 in the Mooresville, catch Brawley School Road and come all the way down and back down. I mean, that was a long ride just for an emergency call. But over the years, they decided they gave Lake Norman a fire truck if they would take over their part of the McNeck down there. That way it would save time, which we was already here. You know, we could answer the call and be right there where it took them to come all the way up. And if it was a house on fire, fire department came out of Mecklenburg County. It wasn't no use of them coming because that house is gone time they get there. But it's been a big change, especially when the lake came up. They was talking about camp meeting over at March Grove over there. That's over around Charles Ford. Now, right up the road there, that was a road you could catch and take you right on over there. Back in the day, you didn't have no trouble if you was out in this area getting where you wanted to go. And you know, getting back to school. Only thing I guess I really look for is they had a fairground in Troutman, and you went to school. School started the last of August, and you go in school 3 or 4 days. They would give you a pass to get into the fair one night, one time. But you know, I look forward to getting that pass. You go to the fairground and walk around, eat, whatever. But I guess that was about the interesting thing that was going back then, was the fair, going to the fair and these camp meetings.
Baseball.
Yeah, baseball.
The county fair is just the one black.
Right.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank y'all.